I think there's just an intrinsic joy when it comes to telling stories. If you think about it from human history, our throughout all of our lives, we always tell stories. We are storytellers as people. I mean, you can go back to things like the Bible, or even later on, say Shakespearean plays. We're always finding new ways to entertain and kind of engross people, and you can find a lot of other things inside of the medium. I quite like experimenting with different thought sets that aren't my own. Like everyone says, like I enjoy playing a villain, but sometimes playing a villain is very interesting because you get to like delve into like what is the psychology behind this mindset that you can never do in real life because that'd make you an absolutely terrible person. But there's a bit of a morbid fascination with like how people think and what the experience is when you get yourself into that kind of mindset.
I think with the villains as well, I've noticed it with audiences as well, and there's this trend at the moment where we want to know the villain's backstory because we kind of want to see what's made them break. I've referenced him a bit too much on the show, but I had another voice actor by the name of Brian S. Farr. I don't know whether you know him, but he said to me that he gravitates more towards villains himself, and I think with villains, it's more I think people just want to see what it takes to make someone break because we want to know makes what drove him to the backstory. The only example I can think of is Persona 4's Goro. I forget how you say his surname. Taro Dachi. It's something along those lines. It's a Japanese name,
And
but
yeah,
basically in the animation they show his backstory, and then I read all the comments on the where this person put on YouTube, and they basically said well, whilst I don't sympathise with the guy, I get it. So I think that people want to see what makes someone break.
I can't remember who it was. It might have been Brandon Lee Mulligan or someone that I was watching an interview with, and they kind of talks about the allure of a villain to a common person is common people. We have regret and we have guilt, and in our minds, we like to think, oh, what if I just didn't feel bad about anything I did? If I could just do something and be in the moment, and that's what a villain is, and that's why people are quite attached to them. Because it's like you kind of look at them and go, wow, you just have no regrets, no anxiety. You go for it, and that's probably the allure to quite a lot of people. Why people like villains.
There's also an interesting stat with crime documentaries and women, where apparently the reason that women like to watch crime documentaries is because they can use it as like a not as like a test, like a simulation, but more like a out of count or out of experience with third person viewing of what not to do to get yourself into that situation. And I reckon the villains kind of like that. Some people use that as okay, what did this villain do, and what can I not do to end up like this villain? So, say Thanos, just to give an example. Okay,
Mm.
I know he's different in the films, but in the comics, he tries to impress Death or Lady
Yeah,
Death. So, someone might say, "Oh, that's how he be careful falling in love. He might end up a genocidal maniac." Because some would put that connection together, but some would say, "Okay, just be wary of guys who get a bit too intimate." So, I think there's also that there's kind of multiple sides to it, where you've got the sides like analyzing, and then you got the others just more intrigued, and someone just say like, "Yep, that's why he did it."
I think there is also a swing now in current media that people are starting to go back to villains that are just villains for the sake of it. Because I think the recent movie I saw was like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where they had like multiple villains, but Jack Horner. I love that the most. Where it's like, that's horrible. You're horrible. You're an irredeemable monster. And he's like, yeah, what took you so long, idiot? Flicks him off the shoulder. And I think people have, I feel a bit of a sense of relief because they're like, okay, for the last 10 years or so, like villains and such have always had to have like really complex nuanced depth. Maybe we just want someone who's bad for the sake of being bad.